All right, I'm back. And we're talking about Dodge because right now Dodge is giving us a masterclass of how to not update a model. It's crazy, man. All right, I'm back. And I had actually been planning to make this video for quite a while because I had heard lots of rumors flying around that Dodge was quietly planning to sunset or just cancel the Charger RT, which is the base model of the new electric Charger. And oh boy. So, for those of you who aren't aware, for the 2024 model, Dodge basically canceled all of their gas powered Chargers and Challengers, and they released a new EV only, so EV powered only Dodge Charger. Now, yes, I know there are people in the comments saying that there's going to be an inline 6.1, but that was not available at launch. At launch, there was only an EV available model. And ultimately, that was just a terrible decision. Now, like, the reason why I want to make a video on this is because the Charger RT, or the base model electric Charger, has only been on sale for 2 years. Like, that's kind of crazy that they put all this research development in and then canceled it after 2 years. But the Scat Pack's still going to stay around, so they're not completely canceling the electric models. But one of the two options, so 50% of their electric car lineup, they're canceling. And so while it is kind of crazy that they're canceling a model after like 2 years, if you look at the sales numbers, it's not actually that super surprising. The Q1 sales numbers actually just came out. So if you look at the previous generation Charger, it ran all the way from 2010 all the way up to about 2023. Dodge did all types of dubious stuff saying it was the last model, and then they did another last model as like a huge cash grab. Dodge, stop doing stuff like that. But anyway, that last generation Charger, for its Q1 sales on average, and we kind of have to do a little bit of math here because the Charger and Challenger used to be two separate models. Now it's one model, and whatever. But if you look at the Charger and the Challenger sales from Q1 from 2010 to 2003, on average, the Charger sold about 20,000 models, and the Challenger sold about 12,000 models, actually closer to 13,000 models. Now, if you compare that to the Charger EV, which is combined both 4-door and 2-door sales, in 2024 in Q1, they only sold 10,000 models. And in 2025, they only sold 3,000 models. So there is a sharp and steep decline of sales. I know you can't just compare straight up metric stats, but if you're comparing it to the average, the electric Charger is not going the direction that Dodge would have wanted it to go. But I think the problem comes when Dodge introduced this model. They showed us that they have a fundamental misunderstanding of who their customers are and why they buy the cars that they do. And so, to me, what it feels like in this situation happened is that somewhere in a boardroom in FCA's headquarters or Stellantis or whatever they name this freaking company next week, or they need to stop changing this company's name. It's just, oh my God. But somewhere in a boardroom meeting, they decided that what they needed to do was transition to electric cars. I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think, for one, as a business, you need to think about the future. Electric car technology, it's here. It's much more mature than it used to be, and it's actually pretty decent. So, like, going that direction is kind of where the market's going. So it's not surprising that they would want to do it, but this kind of like hard, like boom, like flip a light switch type thing, I think at the end of the day, you have to look at the type of people who buy certain types of vehicles and what they are looking to get out of that vehicle. And I'm going to like make an assumption. Every time I make an assumption on this channel, you guys roast me to bits, but I'm going to make an assumption here. I feel like the majority of people who are buying Chargers and Challengers are specifically buying Chargers and Challengers because they want a V8. I think it's as simple as that. Like, that's why they're buying those vehicles. The primary selling reason behind those vehicles is that they have V8 engines. I don't know what's so complicated about that. And I can already like see the thunderstorm in the comments section brewing, because the last time I talked about electric cars, everybody immediately ran down into the comments and tried to ratio me off the face of the planet and called me a fake car guy and said that I don't know anything about cars, because real car enthusiasts will take an electric car hands down 10 out of 10 times over any gas powered option, because it's just the better option. But like, here's the deal. Like, obviously that's not true, because if it was, this car would be selling better. Dodge has given this car a substantial horsepower increase. When you compare model to model, so RT to RT and Scat Pack to Scat Pack, there's no argument that the electric power charger makes more horsepower and it has more performance. But the thing is that people aren't buying this car. They're just not interested in it, because like I said, the customer base who buys Chargers and Challengers, they aren't interested in just looking at the spec sheet and saying this car has more horsepower. They're buying the Charger and Challenger because it has a V8. And I think Dodge's two solutions to this problem aren't going to solve anything. Their first solution is to, well, cancel the RT. I think that is a good step. For one, I don't like the idea that the RT was basically just a nerfed Scat Pack. It didn't really need to exist in the lineup. So I think simplifying the lineup is kind of a good idea, but it's not going to make this car sell better. People aren't just going to like suddenly run out and want to buy a Charger now that the RT doesn't exist. And then the other thing that Dodge is doing is they're putting a gas engine back into the Charger and Challenger. Or I guess it's just the Charger, because the Challenger's canceled. That's a step in the right direction, but ultimately I think that's going to do more harm than good, because the engine that they're putting in is the Hurricane Inline 6. At the end of the day, I'm a huge Inline 6 fan. I mean, obviously I have my M3, my 535i. I really like the idea of the Hurricane Inline 6 because, a little bit of a tangent here, but I really like the idea of the Hurricane Inline 6 because what it kind of feels like is an American 2JZ or an American N54. And at the rate that Dodge sells cars, in a couple of years, these things are going to be all over the junkyards. I really like this engine, but I think it is the wrong engine for the Charger, because at the end of the day, if you want the sales numbers to recover for the Charger, it's pretty simple. Just put a Hemi back in it. You just have to put a Hemi in this car. Like, it's that simple. Like, and I guess the thing that's like the most frustrating to me about this whole situation is that, yes, it is a simple solution. They're going to have to put the Hemi back into the Charger, but like none of this had to happen, like at all. Like this did not have to happen in this way. So, like I said before, like I'm pretty sure all of this came about and became a thing because Dodge, Stellantis, FCA, whatever their name is, they had the goal of transitioning to full electric cars by 2030, I believe, which seems to be what everybody else is doing. But I don't really understand why they suddenly needed to do it kind of like a light switch. I don't know why they didn't pursue some type of option where they went with a plug-in hybrid. And I think a great example of these types of transitions are the new BMW M5 and the Corvette E-Ray, which technically isn't a plug-in hybrid, but it's a hybrid, so like you get the idea. With both of these cars, BMW and Chevy, they were smart enough to know that the people who buy their cars are not just car enthusiasts, but they are enthusiasts of gas-powered cars. And so what they did in both of these situations was they added an electric motor on top of the gas powertrain, and in the case of the M5, they gave it 200 more horsepower. And for BMW enthusiasts, BMW guys aren't like eat your greens electric car loving type people. They're hardcore performance guys. They like the new M5. They might complain about the way it looks, but you can't argue with the performance that this car is providing. And I just don't understand why Dodge would not capitalize on the opportunity to do this in the Charger and the Challenger. I think the proper way of doing this is what Dodge should have done is they should have introduced some mildly refreshed version of the last generation Charger and Challenger and made it a plug-in hybrid. Because if Dodge had did this, they could have had Tim Kuniskis walk out on stage and said, oh, well, we're not gonna make electric cars, we're gonna make e-muscle. And then roll out a Challenger or a Hellcat or whatever car that's the same powertrain as it was before, but has 200 more horsepower. Nobody's going to complain about the Charger having 200 more horsepower. It just doesn't really make sense that Dodge would choose to not do that. And like the last time I said this, I said it on Discord first, and a few people in my Discord, they had a great conversation about it. And then I said it on Reddit, and because, you know, everybody's an expert of everything on Reddit, everybody like ran out of the woodworks to tell me that I don't understand how engineering works, and there's no way Dodge could have pulled this off. But like, here's the thing, Dodge's gearbox supplier is ZF. They use the ZF 8-speed, so they use the ZF 8 HP70 and 8 HP75. They could have upgraded to the 4th generation gearbox, because in that gearbox, ZF actually offers a plug-and-play hybrid solution.
The variant is a 400-volt plug-in hybrid, tops it all. Depending, of course, on the battery dimensioning of our customers, i.e. the vehicle manufacturers, we can easily achieve an autonomy of 120 kilometers or more in solely electrical driving. And studies have shown that roughly 80 kilometers are sufficient for a lot of families on a daily basis. And this, of course, can be done with the plug-in hybrid system, so that roughly 90% of households can drive purely electrically using our plug-in hybrid system. Customers who have always trusted on the 8 HP technology can seamlessly integrate the new version within their vehicle platforms. I would almost say plug and play.
So from the manufacturer's perspective, all they have to do is basically just purchase the new gearbox and then put it where the old one is. And then half of the challenge of engineering an electric car in terms of like the propulsion and the motors and running the hybrid system is already handled by ZF. And this isn't like a theoretical thing. That's exactly what BMW did. That's exactly what they did on the BMW M5. All they did was just purchase a hybrid version of the ZF 8-speed, and now they have an electric version of the M5. And yes, I know they had to put batteries and all that stuff, but if Dodge engineered a whole electric car with batteries and all that stuff, they could have engineered a plug-in hybrid, especially when half of the engineering's already done for them. It's crazy to me that they would pass on that opportunity. And then after, you know, they introduce all these models that essentially are just plug-in hybrids that get significantly better emissions, significantly better fuel mileage, actually can drive on electric power. And then for your core audience, your car enthusiasts who are buying this car because it has a V8 with 200 more horsepower, you're priming your audience to like the idea of electrification. And then in the future, you could introduce whatever this version of the Charger or the electric Charger is, and you could call it the Banshee or whatever, because that seems to be what they want to call the really fast one. Introduce that one first and make it have like 1,000 horsepower. And then you're going to get more people interested in the electric car model. So yeah, this just feels like a missed opportunity. And it's just wild to me that like I can come up with a better idea than what they came up with, and I'm just some dude talking into a GoPro. So that's pretty much all that I have to say. If you like this video, drop a like, and then also jump down into the comment section. Tell me what you think about this electric Charger. Tell me if you thought it was a good idea, if you thought it was a bad idea. Let me know your thoughts, because I honestly have not heard anybody talk about this car in any real substantial way. So it would be interesting to me to like see what the community's perception of this car is. And I guess I will see you guys in the next one.
And that's why Dodge will not sell electric cars. Dodge will sell American muscle. So if a Charger can make a Charger quicker, we're in. And while that may sound like a nuance, it's not to our customers anyways, because our customers purchase an experience.